again, and we're going to record the meeting. So let's start in the order that I can see you. Anaili is our program officer, as you know, and please introduce yourself.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Anaili. I'm from Colombia. I'm 22 years old. I'm the current program officer of MultiPOD Mentoring. I'm an international business professional. And that's it. Thank you.
That's it. Okay. So continue with Catherine, please.
Yes, thank you. Hi, my name is Catherine. I'm from Germany, and I'm also joining from Germany, and I'm a bioscientist. Thank you.
Okay. Now, Cynthia, please.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cynthia. I'm joining for Geneva, Switzerland, and I'm working as a consultant right now under the human rights and gender field at the UN. Nice to meet you.
Okay. Now we have Christos.
Hello, my name is Christos. I'm a doctor. I have studied medicine in Greece, where I come from. Currently, I work in Switzerland. Hello from Zurich, Cynthia, the other side. And happy to be on board this program and this effort.
Okay, great. Thank you, Chris. Trang, we cannot see you, but we can hear your voice.
All right. Yeah. So hi. So I'm saying hello from Hanoi, Vietnam. So I'm currently managing my own social enterprise and education. And at the same time, I do write for international outlets. And I'm trying to write more and more now. And before, when I was living in Europe, I participated in a lot of campaigns and activism on gender issues. So nice to meet you all.
Okay, thank you, Trang. Let me tell you the agenda for today. First, you will have to bear a little bit with me because I would like to explain to you why I am so interested in promoting this idea and why I want to introduce that in MultiPOD as part of the curriculum or as part of the spirit of MultiPOD. The second point is that the expected result of this meeting is to have, thanks to you, an idea of how to proceed. We started this process at the first meeting, but there were only a few of us. Christos was there, Catherine was there, and now we have 2 new members. And what I expect from this meeting is to have first information from all of you of why do you want to participate, what is what you have as the background. You mentioned a few things, especially what could you contribute to this joint effort? And one of the things that I mentioned, I came across the idea of this gender transformative approach in 2018, not before. And that was when I started to have some communication with Women in Global Health. It's a group, a political activist group, which has many, many connections all over the world and is led by a doctor living here in the US and has a board and a group of people that are really outstanding women from many countries in the world. They focus on global health and they attend all the big meetings, the political meetings, WHO, or the scientific meetings, the World Health Summit on policy, etc. And I have not been following up exactly what they are doing. But it's a group that is very strong, and we don't have a direct communication with them. But I really, really thought that what they were doing is really, really, really good. The second point I want to tell you is that when we talk about gender, many people still understand women because for hundreds of thousands of years, women have been exploited, have been considered inferior, and I'm going to recommend some books that you probably haven't read. I was a biologist as a physician, and I was more with the idea of biology, more about nature than nurture, more biology than the environmental and cultural conditions and the social context in which women, men, transgender individuals live. Now I'm moving from that gamut because I think that both things are important and both things have to do with gender issues. The other point is that I have 5 sisters. And I don't know if I have showed you. Some are older, some are younger than I, but everybody's between 70 and early 80s. And my mother and these 5 sisters are my heroes. I don't think any man that I know could go through life, through the lives that they have lived, and not complain all the time. They have lost children, they have lost their money, they have been frustrated. One of them is a mathematician, first place at the university, but she ended up working as a seamstress because she couldn't have the opportunity even to apply for a job in mathematical research. So they are my heroes because a man would have felt very frustrated. They lost children. One of them had her husband murdered. Horrible situation. The third point has to do with my mother. My mother had 9 children from the time she was 23 to the time she was 40. And she started a movement in Mexico, similar to what Evita Perón did in Argentina, but of course in a very, very, very lower level. She started an association for mental and social health in Mexico. And because my father was a well-known person, he was a movie director, a film director, she could get all the actors and actresses and organize, and then she got money and everybody was interested, and the president of the country said, Doña Linda, I'm going to give you support, call the Minister of Health. She started a movement for mental and social health because she said, that's what we need. And this was many, many years before she could even vote, because women couldn't vote in Mexico until October of 53 or 54. And that movement really started moving very fast in Mexico. But then my father said, Erlinda, nena, you have to take care of your children. And the movement lasted only 3 years. And then my mother told me, Fernando, when you grow up, please help with this movement. Help to do something about that. And you're going to be a physician, you're going to be a doctor, and you're going to help. So that's the second one. The third one has to do with the time I worked on AIDS. And AIDS started in the US and in Europe with gay men. And I remember that one day I was flying to a meeting in the Netherlands. We had every 2 years the International AIDS Conference. And a young man was sitting beside me, and we started to talk about both. We were going to the same meeting, and he explained to me, he told me who he was. And he said, well, you know, I'm going to tell you something about me. I am gay. I have AIDS. I used to use drugs, and I was a male prostitute. And now I'm an activist. I'm an activist. and said the only thing that I don't have against me socially is that I am not Black. Everything else is against me. The third point is that the worst thing that I think can happen to somebody, even worse than death, is to be a slave. And when I saw the movie Amazing Grace, you know the song, Amazing Grace, it's a spiritual. Actually, I didn't know anything about except the words, the lyrics. But then I saw a movie on that, and I couldn't stop crying, and I cannot see the movie again. Because for me, slavery is something that not only affected the slaves, but generations and generations and generations and generations. And we start seeing the after effects of slavery in many countries, So my vision of gender and social and human rights is informed by that. I never suffered that. I'm a man, I was privileged, and I'm a bad guy because I'm a machista, and I'm more towards biology. But I still want to see and to learn something about changes. Fortunately, in the last 70 years, these changes have been dramatic, not enough, but at least they have begun. And why Christos and I are in this group? Because we are men. And men from different generations, from different countries, with different ideas. And you are women from different places and with your own ideas. So I wanted to give you this as an introduction. You have read the documents about the gender transformative approach, and you may have so many ideas that I would like for you to share with us. So I would like to open the virtual room to anybody who wants to talk about, first, a little bit more about their background and what they have done and what they think to contribute, they can contribute to this effort. It's going to take years. It's something that we need to start in MultiPOD because we have access to young people. Right now, we have more than 300 former mentees and mentors, 400 with the mentors, from representing more than 100 countries, more than 70 disciplines and languages. So we're in a unique place to start something. And even if we only start with 10 people or with 5 people, which would be ideal, we don't want to have a very big group. Everybody wants to come in because they're interested. We need people who are not only interested, but are beyond interested. And if they don't have time, they will make time. And they will decide where to go and how to do it. I'm going to be in MultiPOD for 2 more years, and then I will be advisor to my successor. But I really want to introduce these dynamics into the program. As you saw in the application, we have included something about the injustice of women earning less than men for the same job, the same work. So I leave you here. And anybody who wants to provide some information and ideas. I'm going to count to 10. 10, oh, to 0, to 1, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Who goes?
Okay, I can start.
Oh, track.
Okay.
Okay, Catherine. We saw track.
So first with introducing myself or with some ideas?
where are you coming from?
Okay.
Issue of gender and some ideas.
So my background is on bioscience. So I'm not coming from the social science field and not from the side of human rights. But I think in bioscience, there are a lot of, actually with me, there were a lot of women starting. I think we were 70% of women starting the program. And then at the end, even in the PhD programs, we have a lot of women, but then on the top or going up, like professorships or having research groups and so on, they are only men or nearly just men. And it's very difficult for women to get a position there. And then I had a talk with a professor some years back, and he also said this, that it stops. Maybe because they decide to have a family and afterwards it's difficult to start. And then I also had I have a friend who did a PhD in a working group where the professor said, who was actually a woman, that she's not going to employ women because then after their PhD, they are going to decide to become a mother. And then all the effort put into this person is being lost, because then while she has a family and as a mother, she cannot contribute so much into research. And I think, like, especially in the sciences and the natural sciences, it's very difficult for women to get a place. And I think that I can contribute with my experience on this, because I mean, of course, it's getting easier, but it's still not there, and there's still a lot of problems, and they are not really aware of these problems. And then we have a lot of older men that are in these really high positions at the university. And yeah, it's just very difficult. I never worked under women, for example. And this is something which is very bad. Yeah. I'm sorry, there's a question.
No. Thank you, Catherine.
Yeah.
And that's one of the points, because Catherine has studied and lived and worked in Germany.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, this is Western Europe, with some of the best scientific institutions and universities in the world. And despite all the progress, Merkel, as in power, etc., they still have that. They still experience that in many fields. And one of the reasons Catherine is with us is because she's especially in a field where especially women are discriminated or are not treated the same way than men. Okay. So,
and it's interesting on this is because so many women start with the program, and then maybe 20% end up, like, after the PhD, having a position afterwards, which is very bad.
wow.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know if your question is on this, but I have a question actually to Fernando on this GTA approach, which I was thinking about. Maybe you answered this already, but just to be sure, like, I was thinking, do you want this gender justice and equality within MultiPOD integrated, like internally, or as an outreach of MultiPOD to through the actions, for example, outside of MultiPOD?
Let me confess something to you. Oh, Zoe is here. Wonderful, Zoe. Thank you. Welcome. Why don't you introduce?
Hi, I'm so sorry about that.
No, we are so happy that you are here. Why don't you introduce yourself?
For those of you guys who don't know me, my name is Zoe. I'm from the US, Virginia on the East Coast. And let's see, I'm a student at Minerva University. I'm studying political science and history. Yeah. I'm currently in Virginia right now.
Okay. So what I was asking people is to introduce themselves and then mention about their background and their interest in gender issues, and then what they think they could contribute to this group. But now I'm going to try the answer of Catherine's question. I started this mentoring program with the idea of mentoring. And the idea for mentoring was to identify talent in different places of the world. And we have found talent everywhere, everywhere and anywhere. Very high level of talent. I'm not talking only about native intelligence, but about what drives people to apply what they have into something concrete, productive. And that's why you were in the program and you are in the program. But my second point was to try to build a collective intelligence, like a synapse of neurons, of very smart people with many interests, finding a common ground, a common cause, and then have an impact. I'm talking an impact. I always think in terms of 20 years. So be patient, because I may not see the results or the impact, but you will see the impact because you have 50 more years of work ahead of you. Sorry to tell you that, but you should be delighted that you're going to be productive for the next 50 years. And the idea was that some of the mentees and former mentees, I assume 10 to 20%, would like to continue communicating with each other and have maybe a formal kind of network of collective intelligence. And initially I said, well, you are going to think about different areas. You want to work on climate change, you want to work on this and that, etc. I had an experience with a previous group that we formed, two previous groups that we tried to form. One is the MultiPOD Young Thinkers and Innovators. We didn't get any takers at that time. That was 2018. And 2019, we got another group and they started a group called the Coalition for Global Health Innovation. And they cut the umbilical cord with MultiPOD and they are working on their own. But I still have the idea of having as part of MultiPOD, as a legacy of MultiPOD, this kind of synapse of people who are talented, intelligent, and can make an impact, not only in global health, but social development and environmental protection, what is called planetary health and welfare. And you are going to deal with that, even if you don't want to. The problems of the 21st century are going to be on those three areas, not only global health. So, and you may, some of you may even see interplanetary health at some point, or your children. I'm thinking about that. And this is the basic idea. And I can show you some presentations I made on this idea. And people say, no, that's too ambitious. Well, it's a transgenerational project. This is not only now. I mean, I have, what, 10, 20 more years in this earth. But you have plenty of time. So that's the idea. So, Catherine, thank you for the question. And then, again, the floor is open for anybody who wants to talk about their background and what they think they can contribute. And of course, we can call it something else, not gender transformative approach. We can call it whatever the group decides. Cynthia, I see some interest.
Hi, Fernando. So if I come in, first I'd like to compliment you. Like, thank you. It's really great to see like you having this approach, like a gender approach to the MultiPOD. I think it's really interesting, and I think I just want to congratulate you for that. It's never too late. So yeah, amazing. Well, so my background, I'm still a learner. I'm learning a lot every day while I work. So my background is I am graduating in law, so I started working as a lawyer in Brazil, and I did work with family law. So I work a little bit with divorce, guardianship for kids. So I also touched with a little bit of domestic violence against women, and also with some vulnerable communities. But now in the international field that I'm working, I'm supporting human rights and gender team with some interventions that we fund in some countries. So I'm still starting, like there is only 6 months that I started, so I'm learning a lot. So I think I can contribute with what, with my skills, with my knowledge, and also like brainstorming with you guys together. So my question would be for you, Fernando, is you already have the MultiPOD, you already have the mentees. We saw from the last year, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, to have more women than men for the first time. So this is already great. So it shows that women are more interested in joining the mentorship. So we have like the gender balance is even better than we were thinking. But my question is, how are you envisaging to bring this gender transformative approach to the MultiPOD? What I was thinking is having women shows also the other side that, I mean, I know with gender, we're not only talking about women, as I said, we also have, you know, LGBTQI populations as well. But my thinking is, it shows also a need for these groups, especially women, that how we still need some mentoring, some leadership for achieving our careers, because we're mostly affected by not only mental health, but also with imposter syndrome, lack of leadership, feeling that we are, you know, not capable of doing it. We have a lot of complexities still coming from cultures, beliefs, you know, stereotypes, and all the machismo, as you said. So I think MultiPOD could be really contributing towards, apart from doing the great job is mentoring us with the mentors, but also sometimes thinking about doing side events or other developing other skills, focusing in supporting these women, or, you know, we us in more bringing a gender lens to the MultiPOD. I'm sorry, I'm still brainstorming with you. So like, for instance, thinking about some development, capacity building or development of skills in order to help women achieve more leadership skills, or feeling more capacitated or more confident. Like normally when I have the mentorship sessions with my mentor, Veronica, I'm most of the time like, like asking her how to feel confident in my tasks, in my job, in the field, how to trust myself. And, you know, this is a really important change that we have each other. So bringing, and it's and I think the MultiPOD brings this safe environment, space that we can trust our mentors. So I think it'd be an opportunity to bring this gender lens, and also supporting, firstly, developing more skills, thinking about this, and then later we can see how we can move on.
Wonderful. Yes. Thank you, Cynthia. Let me tell you, it has been very difficult to recruit women. And part of that is because women live at least 3 times. Women usually live only one life. You live lives and you are in charge of your profession. You have to, you know, work your profession. But then when you go home, you feel responsible, and you are actually the ones who take care of the children. Because when my wife asked me to take care of my daughters, our daughters, I didn't care what kind of shoes they had on, and, you know, I would take them to McDonald's or whatever. I was not really in. And the other thing that women do is you feel also responsible and have the pressure of balancing all those 3 lives. You know, as a homemaker, as a mother, and as a professional. We don't have that. So it was difficult for that reason. But the second reason is that I had to invite 5 women to get 1 as mentors. And if I invited 5 men, 4 of them accepted. Why? Because they felt, oh yeah, I'm the big deal, of course, by experience, and I can transfer that. But then we saw that we had 80% young women in the program, and that they were asking exactly what you are telling us. I need to find out from the experience of older women, or how they could solve, or at least address all these issues of being a mother and being, productive professionals and competing in the market with everybody. So I thank you for that, because we finally got more women mentors than men mentors. And I will try to keep that 50-50 if I can, if we can, with your help. Okay, so who comes next? Christos, can I ask you for your ideas, please?
Well, I have said it before and I will say it now. I think that this is something quite relevant, and something that, although many people acknowledge that there are gender disparities and gender equality needs to be further emphasized, it's not something that is really happening, or it's not happening at the level that we would like to have it. For instance, in my background, not only 2 generations before myself, but also in the generation of my parents, women were generally considered as the ones who should dedicate themselves to home and so on. And more or less this is also happening now, or this is expected from them now as a free decision, not as a social obligation, let's say, but it is still expected. And even now with some friends, for instance, who are migrating from Ukraine during the situation, I'm seeing that they are still expected to obey to their husbands and stop a career that they have started in a foreign country and just return there as soon as the war stops, because this is what they are expected to do. But I really ask myself, what would happen if the husband was here and had a good career here? I think that the obvious answer would be that the wife would follow the husband, and it wouldn't be the other way around. So I still think that there are many aspects of daily routine and daily life and daily choices that we can change through such an approach. To be more practical, I believe that we should conclude some short and long-term goals, and okay, apparently not by the end of this meeting, but set a document and try to contribute to this. And then by the next meeting, have these goals and put a strategy in order to implement them. But yes, this is more or less my take.
Christos, thank you. I have a question for you. How is the situation with medical school in Greece? Because in Mexico, when I was there, only 20% of the students were female. And now the vast majority, not only in Mexico, but in Denmark, in Europe, are women. Women are entering the health field, and more than men. So this is something that is happening already. How's it going in Greece?
It's the same. The majority is women. Okay, not a majority of 70 or 80%, but I believe it's more than 50%.
Yeah, okay. And that's happening everywhere. Okay, so the world is going to be in good hands as far as health.
Not necessarily, because again, there is this barrier for surgical specialties that are traditionally for men, and so
orthopedics, for example, because they say the intelligence, the strength of an ox and the intelligence of half an ox. Sorry, that's what we used to say. Okay, so sorry. Who else? Trang, are you still there?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right. So I want to touch upon several points that you mentioned. First of all, transformative. I like that word, but I don't really know how it is like practice and how we translate this into practice. I have attended, I think, more than 50 conferences on gender issues, and I don't think they changed my life. So we had too much like high-level conversations on gender, but the more challenging task of translating those ideas, so beautiful ideas of those conferences into daily practice, has not really been achieved. Second, to be honest, in my life, my own life experiences, I have been more inspired by feminist men or male allies than women. And I don't think having more women should change the game. We need more people who embrace the values of gender equality. For me, like, women are just there to increase visibility, I will be inspired if I see more women, but I don't think it can change the game. I remember last time I was at an international conference, and and in which they talked about democracy. And so they talk about the quality of democracy, and I asked the question, what do you think? Do you think that the quality of democracy will increase when it is led by women? And you know, like the professor at that event gave me a very insightful response. He gave the example of Margaret Thatcher, who was a woman, who was a female leader, but she only embraced masculine qualities. You know, in my family, for example, my mom is the least feminist woman that I have ever known in my life. She actually embraced very patriarchal values. She put more pressure on women, and you know, she actually inculcated into women more, you know, sexist ideas. So I don't really think that having more women on the table and talking more about women would change the game. Instead, what I'm doing now, you know, is I stop attending like, let's say, nonsense conferences on gender. Instead, I focus more on talking to men. And I have to say that it's very challenging because as a woman, sometimes it's very hard to talk to men on some health issues. But I think that now that I'm 31 years old and I have traveled quite a bit, I decided to talk to them bit by bit. So for example, the most recent conversation that I have with male leaders was about the lady days, the menstrual health.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, you know, men are not aware that women would be very tired on some days and would not be able to work. And this is something that male leaders at organizations have to take into account. And you know, like, because, you know, I think that I'm not sure whether you have that in your different countries' context, but in our Asian culture, if a woman is like ill or doesn't feel well because of the menstrual days, we'll have to make an excuse. We have to say something else. We would have to say, hey, I'm tired, I'm crazy, but we would not dare to mention like this is a menstrual health. So I usually, you know, I try to incorporate that into conversation with men or male leaders. The second example is about the sexual harassment. I stopped talking to women on these issues because I think that women all understand. But I have talked to more and more male friends and male colleagues on that issues because they can be the best allies at work. The third point that I would like to mention is, Fernando, you just talked about the relationship between gender and environment. I'm actually having a project on that. So actually I just got funding to implement a project on the relations between gender, or in particular women and biodiversity in the Southeast Asian context. So in which I explain how you know, empowering women would increase biodiversity. And in particular, I touched upon 2 points. So first of all, you know, women have a lot of knowledge about different plants, and especially they know the medical purposes of those plants. But because they are not educated, they can't even write the names down. They can't disseminate knowledge. So that's why we need more education on women in this regard. And the second point is, you know, because of this, a lot of, you know, ethnic superstitions. Women are supposed to stay home on menstrual days. They can't touch, you know, different plants. So I think this is something I try to highlight in my own cultural context to help people understand how women can help promote the biodiversity. So, you know, long time no talk, but since we last talked, I published on intersex and asexual. But the article on asexuality will be published very soon. Yeah, that's it for my end.
Tran is one of the best writers that I have ever met. She writes not only her beautiful ideas, but in a way that everybody understands and wants to read. Because that's something, it's not only good, but it's also entertaining. You want to finish and you want to say, give me more, please, give me more. I hope I embarrassed you a little bit, Frank, but that's what I think. That's what I think.
Thank you.
Now, regarding that, I agree. Okay, no, I will give my comments at the end because otherwise I will continue to talk too much. Zoe, tell us.
Yeah, following that up was a little bit difficult. Yeah, I think it's what trying to hit on with the I guess cultural aspect of the gender transformative approach is something that's really important. I know from the school that I go to is quite diverse culturally. I remember one of my friends who's from China, she talked about something similar, and this isn't technically related to gender, but she said with mental health as well. When you're feeling, I guess, overwhelmed, stressed, anxious, depressed, something like that, a lot of times you'll say like, oh, I have a headache or something like that, sort of avoiding the, I guess, like topic that's considered taboo. And so I think, I don't know, something that like looks at we need to like focus on, I guess, the individual cultures maybe of the different people within MultiPOD. I mean, we have such a diverse community that I think we can draw on, and really see, like, make sure that we're sort of looking at all, I guess, the cultural nuances when we're trying to, I guess, implement some kind of like gender transformative approach, if that makes sense. I don't know. I mean, that was the main idea that I had. I think everything that everybody's talked about so far has sounded very incredible. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Cynthia, Tran, Christos, Zoe, Anaili, you are missing. What can you tell us about Colombia and your experience?
Well, I think, as Zoe said, I think everyone's comments were incredible. And just because of the time, I would like to be very brief. While you all were talking about your own opinions and experiences and thoughts, I was thinking that, for example, here in Colombia, I don't know if it happens in other countries, but the gender inequality topic or issue or problem, I have experienced it more from my own family. Like I have been struggling a lot with that within my own family, not outside. So I think just something to highlight because it was something that came to my mind while one of you were talking about something related with that. I don't remember, to be honest. So I think I have been very interested in since then, since I realized that is like I want to give an example because I don't know, my English right now, my brain is not working that well. When I spend time in my phone, I usually get to the stories, I don't know, the reels, for example, on Instagram. And usually when I get more interest watching one of those stories or reels or whatever, is when it's someone like a debate in these gender issues, when there is a part, there is a person, woman or man or any gender you may think of, is giving arguments and is saying this is facts, this is what is happening in the world, this is reality. And for example, if I have a different opinion or different thought, I instantly get curious about that fact. And I go to Google, to go to internet and try to look for that topic and see if those facts are real, if I was thinking something that was wrong. So that's one of the things that I have, I don't know how to call it, but like motivations for me to start to evaluating, I don't know, to reflect on how I think about women about myself, about men. And another thing is, I think it's very important to involve men and involve any gender, because as the example that I already said is what it's like, if you want to win or if you want to persuade, I think it's important for you to know the other parts opinion, counterparts. I don't know if it's called in English like that, but so you can have your own arguments and say, you know what you're saying is not true. Your perspective may be wrong because this, and this. And if we want to change, I think it's important what Cynthia said, that women, we are usually the first one that attacks ourselves first. And then we have men, for example, the male group, the male community, and I think it's important to know what their thoughts are about women, how they brain or how their mind works, so we can know how to address the needs that men really need to be addressed, or that we need to address for this community. I don't know if you can understand, or I don't know, but it's like understanding the other parts, the other groups, to see how they can be addressed to solve the gender equality. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you, Anneli. Let me in a few minutes that we have before we reach any conclusions and the plans for the future, I really love your contributions to the group, because they came from different, even if the majority are young women, they came and they really impressed me, not only at the intellectual level, but also the emotional level. And I was writing something here as you were talking. Contact, connect, converse, confront, concur. All C's before we go into action. And I show you the face of this book, and I'm going to send you some. This lady, which is a neuroscientist, says that there are no differences between the brain of a female and a male, and that all our ideas about the menstrual cycle affecting the performance in women are hogwash. Why am I reading this? Because I have also read The Moral Animal, which tells you from the evolutionary psychology viewpoint that the human species, we have progressed intellectually, culturally, technologically, etc. But the traits that we have genetically from other generations still take us into different directions. We men exposed with testosterone in utero probably have different wiring in our brains than females who are not exposed to the same amount of testosterone. Now there's plasticity of the brain, and that's where we have hope, because women and men can develop new ways of wiring where they can think differently. And the other thing that I found really interesting that I didn't think about even applying the Darwin, the deterministic theories of Darwin. Because only recently, I was saying the last 20 years, I learned about epigenetics, which is more than genetics. And that's why the giraffes have longer necks, because they needed to reach. So part of the evolution is also the context, the environment in which you live. Now, you asked questions about what would be the difference if women are leaders. One of them, I strongly believe that women are less violent than men. And probably there would be less violence, less homicides, and probably less war if women are in charge. I don't know, but that's what I would assume, unless we have a big change in society. The other point that is a word that I know my mentee, one of my mentees this year, taught me, and I asked her, what does that mean? Because I had never heard it before. Mansplaining. Mansplaining is the way we men communicate with women as if they were children, and then explain the obvious, what they already know. And then for us, is the lack of clarity of women when they talk to us, the subtlety when they speak, which is abstract, and many men, we need to have pom, pom, pom. And then the idea that we have always trying to solve problems for other people. And if you come to us, a woman come to me and tells me, oh, I have this problem, I immediately think, oh, you should do this, and you should do that, and you should, no. Many times what you need is first to establish a contact, get some empathy, and then think about why you yourself are going to solve the problem, not the man solving the problem. So, and also because I'm from another generation. When I was growing up, and still when I was married, etc., women, if we went to a party, the wife was supposed to take care of the husband, and she was the one who, if it was a buffet, she's the one who served, brought the plate to the man, and the man ate that, and everybody said, oh, she's a good wife, because she's doing that. My sisters, my mother would tell them, you have to make the bed of your brother, because he's a man. He cannot do it. You do it for him. And I, of course, being a brat, would say, hey, slaves, make my bed. And they were furious, but that's the way it was in my time. We were supposed to fight with other boys, and we used the term woman as an insult. If you were competing, running against other boys, you say, the last one is a woman. And that was the environment in which I grew up. And during the 60s, when I was a young man, a teenager, the sexual revolution came. And that started the change, because women were no longer a prisoner of maternity. And they could do something about that, their reproductive control. So, and that is why we not only need people from your generation and the following generations, but on Monday, I'm having a meeting with mentors, which are part of the board of directors of MultiPOD. And one of the issues is to let them know that this group is being formed. And Veronica, Cynthia, is going to be part of that group. She just came back from Croatia, and she's going to be part. And it's my expectation that she and some of the men in the group will also like to participate and learn from you, learn from all of you. We may not be able to change, but we may be able to give you examples, bad examples of what needs to be corrected. I sometimes got so impatient with my father, and I still do that to my wife. My father always used to say, teach your wife how to do this, and then you will save time. You can do other things. Teach your wife to do that. So this is something that I have, and even if I cannot change, sexual harassment in my time did not exist. Existed, but it was not even talked about or considered. It was something that you did. I remember taking the bus all night to go to another city, because there was a girl that I liked, and just watch her coming out of church on Sunday. And then I would take the bus back to Mexico City. And I had traveled all night just to watch her come out. And I would say, wait, you were stalking her. No, that was what you were, that's what you did. And you drove your car on the street where the girl that you really like was living, with expectation that maybe you could see her. That would be stalking now. the bosses used to go after the secretaries. And that was the normal behavior that was accepted, and nobody took into account what women felt and what women wanted. So we are at the end of the meeting, and I would like for one of you to please summarize what is what we learned today and what is what we are going to do next. Force volunteers. And Eileen is taking notes, and we recorded the session, and you will receive the report of the meeting. But we need to come up with some points for the meeting, like the summary, the conclusions of the meeting, based on what all of you said.
Then.
Okay,
Oh.
Cynthia, please.
I think just to summarize, one of the few topics that we highlight is like unpaid care work that women still does. Also about what Trang said, that there's many areas that we still need to touch upon, especially about the commitment and translating to action. As she said, she participated in high-level seminars, so there's a lot to going on. We need to get out of the discussion and discourses and go into action. Also, as I have mentioned, that we still need a lot of women's empowerment, especially in our capacity, our confidence. So, and I really think the MultiPOD can really work a lot on this, especially starting with the empowerment of our own mentees that we have right now. I think it's just something that we just have already the platform, we already have the people, it just needs to build upon it. And I agree with Christos that he said, let's have a plan, let's think about the objectives we want to achieve, the output, put in layout, so more organized. And yes, I think to summarize what we have so far.
Wonderful. Any other comments or conclusions? Okay, if everybody.
Maybe I just would like to highlight what Trang said, because I think it was very important. Maybe you should take this to the meeting, because like looking at the target group of this kind of approaches, if men or the people leading the system, talking about the whole system, and if they are not willing to invest in solutions or in guidance by women or by other people from the LGBTQ community, for example, there's never going to be a change. So we have to look at the gaps. Like we know as women, we know what it means, like most of us, and we all experience this, but why is it not leading to changes for so many years? And why is it still like this? And it's also what Cynthia said, the lack of commitment, but why is there a lack of commitment? It's not so simple, I think, and I think they should be a huge target group, or a very important target group of this approach, men or people leading the system. And why are they not willing to invest or to be guided by women? Why is it like this? It's just something that we have to understand.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's very important what Trang said. It was very inspiring.
Okay. Thank you, Catherine. Let me tell you what I would like to suggest that be done. Why don't we present these ideas in a webinar? Present these ideas by you. Maybe 3 of you can present something. We can plan a webinar for everybody at MultiPOD, and we can even invite people from former mentees. Maybe we can have 15 people to attend or 20 people to attend. We don't want a big group where people will come and say, oh yeah, I agree, etc., etc. Let's really impact, let's not confront them, but make them and everybody confront themselves. Because that could be a first step. Or you recognize that there's something that There shouldn't be. There's something that shouldn't be, that shouldn't continue, that something has to change. And trying, you talk about something really interesting, because we want this group to be different. Not a place where people come to complain about what happens to women, but a place where people can come up with ideas how to change that situation. And we need to have men, and we invited one transgender male that we have in the program, but he couldn't come, and the last time he only stayed for a few minutes. But we need to have more people involved with ideas as to what can be done in the next 10, 20 years. Sometimes things happen not by evolution, but by revolution. And let's see if you can all be revolutionaries. I think you can. I think you can. And different perspectives, did you persuade you? I mean, Tran, the way you write, my friend, I mean, there are some very solid arguments that can be disseminated. So we need first to decide on the webinar, and then we need to have a larger group, the larger group, to decide who's going to lead this effort. I will be in a supportive role and give some ideas, and we'll get some of the older people as part of this movement. And the newer people, because now we have Generation Z. Anaili is from 2000. So she was born. And Zoe, you are also very young. You are also Generation Z. And those people are millennials. And the mentors are Generation X and baby boomers and people from the World War II, like me. We are about two of us. So we have not only the talent and the people, but we also want to have the desire. What we need now is a plan of what the group is going to do. And again, it's better if it's a small group, because it has to be a core, and then that seed has to expand and bloom and do whatever is necessary. Okay, so tell me, do you agree that we should probably plan on having a webinar on this? Of course, meeting before to plan what is going to be the theme, the agenda for the webinar. It would be a true seminar of semen, of seed. What are we going to plant on the minds of people instead of the whining and whining? Tran, you have to be one of the speakers.
I'm not an expert on health, even though I'm very keen to explore health and gender. So because MultiPOD is about health mentorship, I would love
I'm sorry, let me interrupt you. We started and we are criticized because we were global health. But then we saw how many disciplines are represented as an interest of people. And of course, we have nurses and physicians, but we have also people working in engineering. We have people, astronomers. We have people in so many different areas. And that's why we expanded that in the social sciences. We have anthropologists, we have, whatever, politicians and political scientists. So we included the human development, and this year we included the environmental protection. The health area is still the majority, but we need to expand. We need to expand. So it's not only health. Health, of course, is really, really important. If you are not healthy, it doesn't matter how you think or what you want to do. If you are not healthy, you cannot do it. So that's why it's important. But everything else should be part of this. Sorry, I interrupted you because I won't let you off. We don't want you off. We need you.
Thanks.
And we need Catherine, and we need Christos, and we need Zoe, and we need everybody who was at the last meeting. And Hailey will be with us. So we don't need to decide now. But what we need is the decision of, is it time to have a webinar just to expose this idea that the group is beginning to think about this and ways in which we can have an impact. And we are not competing against anybody. We don't want to be a big organization, but your ideas would be big. And that's what matters. Your ideas and your capacity to persuade and your capacity to make other people think, even if they disagree with you. And I would like for you to read some books about the other side, the people who are against, or the people who don't think there's anything that needs to be done. Because we need to know how the other people think in order to persuade. What are the arguments that could be used? And not only why is the situation like this? How come what are the areas for action? So my question is, do you agree we should plan on a webinar? Christos said yes. Christos, you and I can have a webinar. No, anybody else thinks that it's a good idea? Doesn't matter. Or you think it's too early, or
if I may say, instead of a webinar, to make sure that we have some output, we could probably circulate a survey and try to gather some responses, some ideas, some proposals, and then proceed with the webinar. That would help as well.
But just let them know about the idea of that we want to get this input into MultiPOD. And Ailey, why don't you send the draft of the paper we sent to the mentoring conference? Please send them that. It's a draft, and the data and the numbers may be wrong, etc. But here we are in October. We are going to introduce this at the mentoring conference. The idea that it's not only mentoring, but we need to include a theme that is not health, is the gender transformative approach that touches health, touches social development, and touches environmental protection and everything else. Put a gender to the planet. Put 3 genders to the planet. I agree. So we will do that at the same time that we propose a date, sometime at the beginning of September, maybe. Am I being too ambitious or putting too much pressure on you? Or you have other ideas on the next step?
I agree with Christos in first circulating like an email, gathering ideas and how we would like to proceed, and brainstorming before. In early September, unfortunately, I will be traveling. So, but yeah, we can always decide.
Sometime in September. We send a doodle and propose several dates.
Yes,
It's going to be an important event. And to start really on 2023. Have all this time to coalesce, investigate, and get some ideas and have more clarity, and then present a true webinar with the ideas of the MultiPOD. I saw 3 people have agreed. We're allowing 4 people.
I think for me, it's not a problem with the webinar. It's not the format is not a problem. The problem is the content.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it takes time to build like good quality content. So I would prefer it, you know, to take a little time to prepare for the content. And, you know, I'd love to hear more, you know, male voices and, you know, input from male participants. So far, we have been talking too much about women and female empowerment. In my opinion, you know, both gender have challenges in their life. You know, for example, like in my family, I'm expected to be submissive and soft-spoken. So my younger brother faces the same challenge. He would be expected to be masculine, strong, and, you know, vocal. So I think, you know, challenges from male sides are less visible. And sometimes, you know, we don't have enough heart-to-heart conversations between people from different genders. So I just like to hear that like frank and free-willing conversations instead of having just, you know, a focus on female or women empowerment. That is my take. I usually on a very regular basis, I just challenge, you know, men to say what they really think on various issues. For example, yesterday, you know, I had a very lengthy conversations on health from male perspective. And, you know, there was a man on the table who wanted to travel to Singapore or the US to lengthen, you know, his legs. And you know why? Because he wanted to look tall, because he's expected to be taller than any girlfriend that he's supposed to meet in the future. So I think, you know, this is something that culture or gender roles and expectations are translated into, you know, biology. And this is something that I'm fascinated about. Yeah, so like conversation-based webinar, but like interesting topics.
Excellent. Yesterday, I was recommending a book to Anaili. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? Body language. Because there in that book, I want to send you a list of books that I have read and will give you different ideas, bad ideas and good ideas. But talks about the difference of between women and men at work and in a social environment or whatever. And I think it's important because the expected roles in different cultures and for men and women vary so much. But the thing about women is that no matter in which culture you're talking about, women are always treated as inferior. Sorry to say that. Okay, so we'll do that. We contact, connect, and then we need to converse, confront, and you use that word, you challenge, and then concur, and then go to work. But we need to do all that. And as you say, and one thing that I wanted to ask you, do we need people from the outside, a big professor or big experts to come? Or shall we start with ourselves? Yeah. Yeah, little bit, like a fatty. Yeah. Yeah.
Probably with ourselves until we have something more concrete to ask and get guidance on.
Okay. What about the people? What are your thoughts about that?
Receiving guidance is better, I think.
Pardon?
Receiving guidance from an expert, I think, is better.
Oh, guidance. Okay. Well.
I would prefer to have someone like your friend, like as a guest. It's like someone who is both an outsider, but also like familiar to you, to comment. Yeah, I think having experts, it's always helpful to direct or steer the conversations on a good track. Sometimes, you know, we talk too much, but do not end up having any like useful input. So I think having an expert is good as well.
I have an expert on gender and sex.
Yeah.
That is part of the board of directors. He's a gay man, professional. But I'm going to ask him if he can be part of the group, because he has lots of experience with gender issues and the side of the LGBTQ community, and also knows about sex and sexual differences and gender and transgender, etc. So that's what I mean, and maybe find somebody else. But I think that the leadership should be assumed by somebody in MultiPOD. And the other guys can be advisors, etc. But this is our or your movement. Not only initiative, but movement. We need to move people and move ourselves. Okay, thank you, everybody. So we'll send you a short report about the meeting, and then and the link to the recording, and see if you have any more ideas that you can send to us. And later on, in another meeting, we can decide with more people who is going to lead the group. Now, this is not a 100% time commitment, but it's a commitment of making time, maybe 4 hours a month or whatever. But in the beginning, we'll need more time to get the ball rolling and to get more people. And be aware that, and that's why I'm being so conservative, that in the Pareto principle, in any group you have only 20%, do 80% of the group, of the work, and the rest do 20% or less. So that's why we need to be careful who joins the program. Right now is not quantity what we are looking for. We're looking for commitment and quality. Quality in the sense of the qualities needed to get this started. Okay, thank you very much, everybody. And we will have another meeting to plan for the webinar. And we may have some 1 or 2 experts with us next time we meet. Is it okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Have a good weekend.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you.